Amen. Please be seated. This is my story. This is my song. Sing a new song, we said in the Psalms. And we have another song from the 70s, which I remember quite well. All you need is love, which goes with the gospel. Except that I'm not sure the Beatles meant the same kind of love that the gospel is talking about. When I came back from England, or I did my last year of seminary, the church in the United States was singing these wonderful songs about they will know we are Christians by our love, how we relate to each other, how we love each other, just like the gospel said. Jesus said, love, my commandment is this, that you love one another. Now in other places he said other things about love, to love your neighbor as yourself. And in another place, to love your enemy, to pray for him who persecutes you, to pray for him. St. Paul had a great thing to say about that, about it'll be like pouring hot coals over his head. I remember when I was in the Maritime Academy, and whenever it got really rough and purged my first year, I would think that to love these guys that are being so mean, it'll be like pouring hot coals over their head. I remember going to bed and thinking that, it's not a very humble or loving thing to think. It was not the way Jesus means for us to love our neighbor, or to love our neighbor as ourselves. So what is our new song? What is the song we sing today? What is it that we sing besides all you need is love, which is true, but he's not using that love in the way the gospel is using it. Remember, there are several different words for love in the Greek. And in the New Testament, it was written in Greek. This gospel, this text today, the word is agape. Agape. That means a sacrificial love, a love for everybody, like God loves everybody, whether they love him or not, whether they know him or not, whether they pray or not, whether they're baptized or not. But God's love is unconditional and out there for everything that he created, including us, of course. And that is the kind of love that he wants us to have, that Jesus has taught about, worked in his ministry, and now comes to us and says, or he comes to his disciples, his apostles there at the Last Supper. The last things almost that he said at the Last Supper is, this is the commandment I give you, to love one another as I have loved you, as God has loved me. And be one with God, be one with me, be at one with each other. An interesting kind of thing in a world full of torment and chaos, not unlike the world that they were experiencing when Jesus was crucified. Not unlike that. They were under oppression, much more than we are. We're under oppression, but it's all more psychological, I think. The world is, going to hell in a handbasket. Is that a good theological term? The world is full of that same kind of thing. It's always been that way. It probably always will be that way until all of us learn to love each other, learn to understand somewhat those other religions, those other people, those other kinds of ideas that they have that are knocking heads with each other, with us. We walk around in fear and trembling, not for our own salvation, but just for the fear of somebody going to mug us, steal our car, break into our house. Not so much at Point Roberts as other places. I know I always lock my car when I go out across the border, but I never lock it here. In fact, I leave the keys in the car. If anybody wants it, you know where I live. And, don't go off the point with it. That's the thing. So, how do we love each other? What does that mean? To love our neighbor, to love each other as God loved us. Does it mean that we have to be crucified for them, to die for them? Maybe we have to die for them. That's the kind of love when you feel it so strongly. Like the love mother would have for her child. A mother would give up her life for her to save her child, I think. And you mothers here know about that, know that feeling. Not us, we don't know that feeling. We're the ones that probably cause you all the problems and grief, right? I can remember somebody asked me at the seniors' lunch the other day, Friday, what was my mother like? And I had to think a minute. How would I describe what my mother was like? My mother and father split when I was 10. I can remember before that, we did lots and lots of things as a family. We went on trips together, long road trips. We went to see all of the national monuments and things in the West, not very far east. And I thought we lived, anything on the other side of the Sierra Nevada was back east when we lived in California. We were in the South, so this is Southern California, we were in the South. My whole political geography was very different in those days. My mother, though, was always taking me to places, to concerts, to little theater plays, to cultural things, to museums, to look at artwork. And she was very concerned about my getting that kind of an education, not just what I had in school. A little bit later, after my mother and father split, she was a single mom with my younger brother and I. Older brother was off on his own. He was 12 years older than me, so he was a half brother. My father's first wife died in childbirth, and his mother brought this boy up. And I only remember him briefly riding, he was pulling me with his football helmet on in my little wagon. I can remember that. He told me stories about how he put me in the rumble seat of his car and give me bags of candy and stuff while he goes and makes out with his girlfriend. And then he'd bring me things, balloons and all this kind of stuff. Not to tell mother, not to tell her. But then he was gone when I was 5 years old. He went to war, and I only saw him after he got back. Lived with him for times when my mother was on vacation or went away with my grandmother. We lived right across the street. And my grandmother was more of the typical mother. She was what everybody would want from a grandmother. She always cared for me. She played games with me. She loved to play checkers with me. And she taught me how to cook. I would always cook with her in the kitchen. I would help scrub the potatoes or pick the beans out, that kind of thing. And learn to appreciate homemaking. Learn to appreciate caring for the home, caring for the children in the home, caring for us kids. I can remember once when I first got a car, we would walk up 2 blocks to the grocery store, but I said I could take you in the car. Or she said, you take me in the car. So I got Mother's car out. Mother took the streetcar to work. And she said, no, you're going in your car. I didn't want to tell her, I wouldn't take her in my car. None of the family got to ride in my car. It had no brakes. If I knew that, I wouldn't be able to drive. So it was easy to drive into the curb and slow down with the sidewalks and things like that. And I only got into a couple of accidents with that. I'm lucky I didn't get into more. But Mother was gone then most of the time, so grandmother was there. Still, I was studying music. I played the oboe through junior high and high school. And Mother made sure that I had lessons and that I advanced in that. And I really missed it when I went off to college and didn't have an oboe. But all the tunes would go through my head all the time, all the oboe parts as well as the whole playing in symphony orchestras and things. Mother then, while I was the first year of college, went off on a trip to England, came back on a ship, met an Australian gentleman on the ship. He came up, was going around the world kind of thing, and they came up to Los Angeles. She got off, sold the house, packed up everything, went off, sent it off on a ship, flew to Hawaii, met the ship and this man, and they got married in Hawaii and went back to Australia where she lived then, stayed there until she died. And I only saw her a few times after that. So Mother's Day for me is a nostalgic kind of thing. What did I want from Mother? Did I get what I wanted from Mother? Was Mother doing everything that she could for me? And I would say yes. And I appreciate it all, except for the dark blue rug that I had to vacuum every day. And things like that. But she taught me how to care for the house, how to care for each other. The love that mothers show. Some people didn't have such a good family relationship, I think, when they were growing up. And some people have real problems with things like Mother's Day and Father's Day. And that even though we have those problems, even though some of you might have those problems, the love that Christ wants us to have for them is a caring kind of love. Not a heartfelt kind of thing, but a soul kind of thing. A love that we can have for even our enemies, even the people that we do not like at all. We can give that agape love to them. A new song we can sing. A new song that we can sing to each other. That we can sing in praise to God. That we can sing in joy for that love that God has given us. And we are able to give back out into the world.